Hey folks, I hope everybody's having a lovely day. We have some chat going on already. Leave studio mode. Max Powers Comic, hello, good to see you. Okay, so today is different. The environment is again a little bit different than what we had yesterday, which was still trying Wi-Fi but trying Streamlabs, and it turns out that I have no drop frames as long as I'm wired in. So we are now plugged in directly into the router, and according to this dashboard, I have 0 dropped frames. So, hello, good to see you. I saw your Facebook message. I still need to respond. It was a video to watch. I just have not been operating at full speed. I'm still suffering from a little back pain. But hello everybody. This is going to be a quick stream, a little bonus stream where I'm going to be working on a new version of our hero's face. I just want to try one more take on this to see how it goes. Oh, that's great. I'm so happy that everything seems to be working. The microphone's on. We got the chat below. I'm not in Streamlabs, which I have some issue with, but the main concern for me, the thing I like about Streamlabs is that it will bump up the audio of my microphone, so I don't have to necessarily be leaving all the time. But I hope everybody's having a beautiful Saturday. It is chilly here in Florida. Many jackets are being worn today. But the focus of this is going to do one more version of our heroes. I want to try this again, see if I can do a more expressive version. So I'm going to start a fresh model, starting with a fresh sphere. Hey LJ. I'm plugged into the router, and so far the dashboard says 0 dropped frames. So whatever it was about the Wi-Fi, I think there must have been some packet loss, miscommunication. That or my dashboard's completely wrong. That or Stream Elements and Restream saw that I was using Streamlabs, and in an effort to curry my favor, they are fast passing me or something like that. I need to get my chat window a little larger so I can read everything. Fantastic. Okay, so this is how the figure's coming so far. Let me show you all. Again, I'm working in Nomad Sculpt on an iPad Pro, and this is the figure so far. I want to tweak the axe that's in his back to make the... I like those axes that are asymmetrical, that kind of have the smaller end, but apparently I've split the difference. I haven't quite dedicated one side or the other. Someone said it looked like I made a mistake, and so it's like a tangent. If you're not deliberate, it looks weird. Marty, hey, how are you? From Baltimore. Yeah, that's fantastic. I hope you're warm. But I'm going to redo his face. I like his face, but part of the thinking when I created this model was that it would be a D&D miniature. And the thing for me is, a D&D miniature has a facing. You know where they're looking when you rotate the character. So the idea was that his eyes had to be looking straight ahead. But usually when I draw Quimp, his eyes are looking like left or right, like there's something over his shoulder. I just think it's got more character to it. So I'm going to do a different face where maybe he's looking behind him, or kind of, but basically still looking forward. I'm very happy with how this turned out. I might stick with this one, but I thought for a short video today, a short bonus video testing the new hardwired internet no drop frames. So far everything's going great. Unbelievable. I can't wait to check this video later on. So in Nomad Sculpt, everything starts, these are all the individual pieces. Anything grayed out is invisible. Usually that shows a bit of cowardice on my part. Like before I tore up our hero's cape, I made a duplicate version of the cape and turned it invisible, and then I worked on the other one. So I always have a backup. I work with a net, a safety net. So I'm going to start with the sphere, because that's how our hero's head started. Nope, it's lagging just a touch. I think just because it's doing it. It has an autosave feature, so every 5 minutes it's doing 2 things. It's saving the file and telling me that I should take another sip of coffee. Art, how are you, my friend? I hope you are warm and safe and happy. Thanks, NPC. All right, so this sphere is the, a redo of the hero of our hero's face. I'm just going to validate it, tell it it's a good boy. Basically, all the primitives, all the spheres, cylinders, boxes, whatever, start off as primitives, very simplified shapes, and you can do certain kinds of transformations to them that you can't do once you get into the sculpting of the thing. So the first thing you have to do is take the primitive and validate it, not invalid, and validate it. And then once you're in that mode, you can start playing with it. So looking at it from the front with a big old brush, it's not symmetrical at the moment. It should have been. Move tool. I must have turned off some sort of global symmetry. I saw this happen before on the thing. Tell you what, just as a, let me save the changes, and I'll work at a fresh document that way, because I don't want to mess this thing up. I've gone through so many iterations and done so many changes to this. I don't blame the application for not knowing what I'm doing. Not to mention, I'm absolutely new at this. I only downloaded this program last week, so I'm kind of faking it. Much like I've been doing comics for 20 years, and I'm still faking it. I'm gonna use a drag tool. The effects of the drag tool and the move tool are a little subtle. Oh, looks like a big schnoz. Just needs a mustache. That's what Marty says. I agree. Okay, so I'm just doing the profile of our hero. The cube. You see the kind of circular shape around, and there's a cube way up in the upper corner. How do I do that? And you can, putting your finger on there or the pencil on there, you can rotate that way, or you can just put your finger anywhere in the environment and that way. I like the cube because if you tap on it, you can get the exact side, right sort of thing. I'm going to increase the mesh. That's it's sort of like the resolution. Like if you're used to DPI in print, if you used to dots per inch in print, the mesh is kind of like that when it comes to a model. I think any real 3D modelers please correct me. I think what I end up doing is I set this smoothing tool so high that I end up creating way more, making the mesh way more complicated than it needs to be. So at the end I will remesh it just to kind of undo all the extra, and the more polygons, the more facets the thing, the more memory it takes up. And okay, so I've gone right now there's a function called symmetry. It's that little, where is it? Right at the bottom of those, you see these two bars? One, it's just like in Procreate, one controls the size of the brush, the other one controls the intensity of the brush. You can go above 100. So when you're smoothing something, you can go set up to 500 and really smooth the thing off fine sandpaper with a lot of pressure applied. And then underneath it is the symmetry icon. It looks like two triangles mirrored. And so you can set a brush. I'm going to use clay. It's kind of a little more subtle effect. And set that little button that's below symmetry. There's one there called sub, and what that is there's two different layers of it. There's an additive effect you can have with clay where you add bits of clay onto the object. I'll show you. I'm sorry, turn off that. So adding brows, like a brow to the character, and adding a nose to the character. And then if you turn it to sub, subtract that amount, so you can build in the orbits of the eyes. So, still, his head isn't quite right, but I'm going to do some more tweaking of it to bring the brush size down. Marcos, hello! Nice to see you. LJ, you can't really claim you're cold until you come up here. Our highs are mostly in the low 40s. LJ, I think, is in the northwest, in almost Canada. To me, almost Canada. Although, I think Ohio, I think that is almost Canada. Okay, I'm going to pull in the side here. Probably needed a larger brush to do this, but how do we look from the front? Oh, I'm pulling his nose down. That's too big a brush. Normally I would have drawn in those features a little bit after the fact, but what the heck? What do I know? I don't know what I'm doing. To create the chin line, Quimp's chin is very subtle, so I'm just going to drag down and just hint at a chin. Take the smooth tool and just kind of erase the nose a little bit. It'll still be a bump because as you add material, smoothing it just will, you know, it'll turn a mountain into a molehill, but it will, you know, it'll still be, the shadow will still be visible. Not the literal shadow, but the evidence that it exists. Oh, let's save this as Quimp Head. But so far, of 12 dropped frames, 0.0%. I was averaging 25% when I was using my Wi-Fi network and not having it wired directly into the router. I bought a 50-foot Ethernet cable. So it was a lot like Wile E. Coyote stringing the blasting lines through the house, the apartment. My cat, of course, wants in. What are you doing? You talking to people? Okay, well, tell you what, I can't ignore my cats. Maybe I can. They might have to use the facilities that they tend to get a little more loud. How are we doing? I can't believe it. 12 drop frames in 14 minutes. Okay, that solves everything. Now, also, I've economized everything, so the screen resolution's low. The bandwidth's upload speed is really low. I basically have turned everything down, and now I have a maximum bandwidth. So I might increase a few of my settings. The good news is I can now cancel the subscription to Streamlabs. I think. I still have them for a month. I will check out a few of their features, but I still don't like their business practices that much. I don't know that much about them. I shouldn't say anything too awful, but there was a Twitter thread about their website completely ripping off somebody else's website. It was, I guess there's a... Oh man, and that's awful that I can't remember the name of the... Lightstream. They are a streaming service. My cat is yelling. I'm going to have to let him in, so we might have a guest star in a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, where were we? Hola! Oh, let me scroll down a little bit. Hello! How are you? It's good to see you. This is a bonus stream. I was testing the technology to make sure that if I could basically solve the problems I was having streaming. And it seems like we have. And so that's why I'm sending this to not only YouTube and Twitch, but also to Facebook. I figured let's set everything to 11. Okay, so we got our basic shapes for our hero. The head is still very wobbly. Not thrilled with that at all. Let me do something a little more extreme. There is the trim tool with symmetry selected. This creates a polygon and will delete anything inside the polygon. So that cut it off from both sides. Very severe effect. but I think if I smooth that out in the end, I'll be happier with the overall effect. And he's going to go through a lot between now and the end of this, so I don't mind having it being a little awkward at the moment. Very Bridgman size. There's an artist named Bridgman who drew characters in a very, I don't. Everybody looked like Iceman. Very chunky, faceted style. Not laggy at all, right? Isn't that amazing? So of just a 50-foot, I don't know, a $15 50-foot Ethernet cable plugged into the router, and I have a green light which kept turning red and angering me. So in the previous stream, I was outraged. Okay, where were we? Choosing the cool subs. We're going to subtract those and I'll show everybody here another little trick if you're ever going to use this program. So or any 3D program. I think this is exactly how Maya and ZBrush work. Now I'm going to create another primitive, a sphere. Gah! And I'm going to shrink it. You can shrink an object, or even a selection of multiple objects by grabbing the... Oh, there's autosave. You see there's a beige orbit around the sphere. If you press on that and then move your pencil closer or further away, you can scale the object. I'm going to line this up with his eyes. Pressing that red arrow, pressing any of the arrows, the green, blue, or red arrow will constrain it to X, Y, or Z coordinates. So if I press on the red arrow and just move my pencil, it will stay locked into that line. And so the green arrow I can bring down. Shrink the eyeball a little bit more. Raise it, grabbing the green arrow, the red arrow. Now, just like the green, red, and blue arrows will constrain its movement, the green, red, and blue circles, if you press on those, you can scale things. So in this case, I'm making the eyes more egg-shaped. I'll show you by grabbing the blue circle, you get Tex Avery. Because it extends it in both directions. So, and the great thing about this program, up to 1,000 levels of undo, unless you quit out of the... So currently, if you look at the bottom left corner, I can undo 161 steps. Right, I'm thinking about checking into a new iPad to use more of my sublimation images. Oh, that's awesome. She uses Procreate, but I'd like to use a new version. I was using the first-gen iPad for the first 4 years of my webcomic, and it's iPad Pro, amazing, fantastic device. It lasted 4 years. I would still be using it if it hadn't just stopped working. I mean, I put it through its paces. And I got the 4th gen. It's amazing. So many in Procreate, you can have so many more layers. It's just great. It's great. I mean, I don't think Procreate's a particularly demanding program, but it was so good. Okay, so the cool thing, you've got this one eyeball in. Up top, you'll see Validate, which is the button which will turn it from being a primitive, a simple shape, into, you can mirror it, and now it is... there's 2 of them, and they will move opposite the central axis of the drawing. I'm going to validate this. So now you can see them a bit more clearly. Also a cool thing about this program is as long as what you're working on is selected, you can't edit anything else. So if I want to add clay or subtract clay, it's only affecting the basic head shape but not the eyes, because the eyes aren't selected. And if I select the eyes, just the eyes. So keeping things separate can be good before you can merge them together. But until then, it's cool to have them separated. Okay, so we're using clay. I'm gonna use the brush tool, which tends to drop a lot more material onto the model. I'm gonna smooth. Coming up. As soon as I decide he shouldn't come up, that's when he will decide. He's fickle. There we go. Hello everybody. This is Atlas. He's awesome. He just wants all the attention. I can work with a cat in my lap. That's ergonomic. Pergonomic. That's free to John Gallagher if he wants it. I'm going to bring the intensity of the smooth tool down a bit. Don't purr. We know you just want food or snacks or food snacks. Okay. So not great, but you get what I'm doing here. Just adding some eyelids and such to the bottom. Nothing too fancy. Flip the nose. The autosave, which again tells me to drink more coffee. Fantastic. Still only 12 frames lost. Okay. So this new streaming's working. From now on, whenever I need to stream, I'm going to plug in the router directly into my computer. Also, because there's a fixed number of, we talked about those facets before, the resolution of the mesh, you can start seeing them appear they are getting, the facets are not, it's not adding facets, it's just making the existing facets larger. So what I can do is I can remesh it. And what that will do is it will take those planes, those larger facets, and break them into smaller facets, basically evenly distributing the facets around the exterior of the shape. And that kind of gives me a reset. It seems like it gives me a reset. Again, any real 3D modelers out there, please correct me. Again, I'm just faking it. But it seems to give me a reset so that I can then go back and smooth things in a bit more natural way. I do think smoothing adds polygons, but in terms of being able to stretch out and increase, especially when it comes to protrusions or protuberances like ears and noses and things like that, particularly large protuberances, it helps. So my goal after this model didn't really have a massive, I thought maybe a D&D model, and even as chunky as I was trying to make it, it still wasn't chunky enough. I was still adding too much fine detail that you just can't 3D print. So what I'm going to do is recreate the figures at a much more appropriate complexity. So if someone wanted to 3D print it, that they could. You okay, buddy? My cat is now asleep on or falling asleep on my lap. Smooth that out. I'm gonna move cheekbones out a little bit here, see if that works in a way that I like it. Usually in the comic I draw his cheekbones in. think you can see how this program could easily be used to create monsters. Okay, how are we doing? Yeah, I can't believe it's 28 minutes in. I do see a little bit of lag. Oh. Hold on a second. I'm gonna set my cat down. As helpful as he's been. I'll be right back. And we're back. I'm sorry about that. The cat needed to... Hey, Steve. Tazari writes on YouTube, I love your comic. I was wondering if you had any advice on creating a website for a webcomic. Oh, wow. Yeah, I do. Did I turn my microphone back on? Yes, I did. The Sculpt of Quimp is looking great. It's CM3. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm still not sure. Right now, he very much looks... There's a monster or some kind he looks like. There's also an inflate tool. Where is it? Right there. I'm just gonna just inflate these areas. I find this is really an awesome tool to use for hands, because as you're building up the hand, I'll show you what I'll undo all of this. But as you're building it up, it creates these interesting striations that all look like, I don't know, the lines of your hand. Or at least the lines of really old hands. My is getting older every day. Okay. Let me smooth that out. Tazari asks about advice on creating a website for a webcomic. Ooh, okay, so it's great to have your own URL, even if you're only going to point that URL at WEBTOONs. As you know, with WEBTOON, if you've got a page over on WEBTOONs, I couldn't tell you the URL. It is like webtoons.com/challenge/ forget it, I don't know. So having your own URL is great, because then you can just, even if it's just on WEBTOON, just point it right there. Building your own website. Hosts I currently like. I really like SiteGround. They do WordPress hosting, and they do very well, and the first year is quite inexpensive. They also have excellent caching tools, which can bite you in the butt with a webcomic, because a lot of websites out there their content doesn't change very often. If you go to brochure website for the local restaurant, they'll update it whenever the menu changes, or if their hours change or something like that. But for the most part, those websites don't change. So I think most websites barely change a bit. Or if you're an artist, you might just, you'll update your portfolio every once in a while. But for us, with updating new episodes, so to reduce the load on the server and to make sure the site loads quickly, they do caching, which is saving a local version of the processed page in a static way, so that whenever that page attempts to load, the server gives them the one that's already done. Because when you hit a web page, a WordPress page, it's got to hit the database. It's got to say, okay, what are all the pieces I need? What are the images I need? Let's put this whole thing together with the various scripts and external elements, as many as it can possibly cache that are cacheable. It has to get all those bits. So instead of that, there's a static version that's constructed from all the various PHP pieces that are behind the scenes that the user is not unaware of. And so it caches it. It's a totally handy thing to do. It makes sites very, very quick. It reduces the load on servers. It's great. But with us updating content and having dynamic, the latest episode has got a specific URL. Anyway, because our site keeps changing, that caching can get in the way. SiteGround has some great tools for refreshing the caching as well, so it's something to be aware of. When you upload a new episode and people wonder why the back button's not working or the back button them to the wrong episode, it's because of stuff like that. But that problem would happen no matter what host you have. It's just something to be aware of. But because their caching is so good, and that's the only quirk I can think of with them. But again, very affordable, very stable, very fast servers. I like WordPress. If you're going to host your own if you're going to host the comic on your own website, there are a couple of plugins you can use that are specifically designed to create webcomics as a new custom post type. So just like you have pages and posts in WordPress, you have a webcomic as a separate thing. You might see in some themes that there's a portfolio content type or an audio content type. Each one is its own. Each content type can have its own set of rules and options available to exclusively it. And some of these plugins create ones that are very webcomic centric, so we as webcomic creators don't have to think about it. So a WordPress host, any common theme will work for the most part with the various webcomic plugins. I don't have one that I could specifically recommend. The one I use, I'd have to look up, because I had to make so many tweaks on my templates to make it work. But I do think it's a good idea to have one. But I do a lot of web design work, so I am very comfortable with WordPress, and I'm very comfortable with tweaking WordPress. So you shouldn't have to, once it works, once you get it working, where are we? Once you get it working, oh, it's too much. That I had the intensity way too high. It was going to smooth everything out. That might be way too detailed still. I'm going to smooth things out. Where are we? Okay. Smooth out his eyebrows. But once you have a decent host, just install any of the existing WordPress plugins, specifically the plugins. I don't know about a theme that might be webcomic specific. But no matter what you do, getting the URL is super important. Okay, I don't hate that. I'm going to add some eyebrows. How am I going to do that? Should I make them as separate objects? Nah, I'm just going to draw them in. So I'm using the brush tool. Small, very intense line, like a heavy intensity. Even smaller. I made them too close together. I think his eyes might be too close together. But again, this is just a quick mock-up. We're going to see if we can do this quickly. I'm going to go for with one more pass. Then I'm going to smooth it. And then using the crease tool, the crease tool will dig into the figure. I'm going to invert that by hitting that little sub button. And now it should create peaks. I'm going to draw those peaks in. Close enough. Well, I tell you what, when you Tazari, when you do build your website, visit any of the and ask if there's any questions about what you're doing. And there's a forum to check out on Facebook, which I highly recommend, called the Webcomic Creators Forum. It is a group on Facebook. It's a public group. I mean, you do have to apply to get into it, but the approval process is pretty quick with some simple questions. Mostly just to say, hey, people, don't spend all your shilling your webcomic in this room, because a lot of people will do that. Why you'd advertise your own stuff to other cartoonists is beyond me. But the whole planet of potential readers, and you're going to try to sell your work to other cartoonists. Not the coolest thing to do. It's like getting invited to a party and bringing your multi-level marketing supplies. But it's a public group, and a lot of people answer those questions. Some of the people in the groups are creators of some of the webcomic plugins. So a fantastic resource. The Webcomic Creators Forum. Yeah, but if there's ever any questions I can answer, let me know. I can't build the site for you, but I'm happy to answer questions but do get your own URL. Does this software have a clone the other side function? Yes, Mike. It's got symmetry. Where is it? Those two little triangles right there. They make one side and then oh yeah. So yes, it does. So let's say a tube. Use the path tool. Let's give our hero horns. I hit the green. I see that green circle there. I'm going to hit that. Autosave is going to kick in. Unlike Procreate, which automatically saves your work, this one you need to tell it to save. Now with this horn, there's 3 different kinds of tube you can make. One with basically a beginning and an end point, so it'll act like a cornucopia or a horn. You can also have one that has the ability to change points along the way, so get creative and weird. But he's going to have regular horns, our hero. I'm going to validate that shape. We'll turn it from a primitive to something that I could mold. Let's look at the top view. I'm going to select the gizmo, which is the thing they use, which is what they call the thing that moves stuff around. And then over here in the menu upper right, there's a symmetry, and we're going to mirror right to left. So they are distinct objects, I believe. I don't know if they're they might still be linked. Oh, they are still linked. And if I click the symmetry button, I should be able to, with the brush tool, subtract. It's not I don't think it's doing the symmetry to the other one. What I did with Quimp and the model I created one boot entirely and then flopped the whole boot. So in this case, you might want to make this horn perfect and then flip it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Where are we? But I go to the list and I can delete. It's interesting, it treated that as a single object, but the symmetry wasn't applying to both parts of it. Although this eyeball, I think, because it was a primitive, maybe if you flip it when it's still a primitive, it'll do that. Maybe that could be it. Again, I've only been using it for a week, so right now if hey, Morbiber is now following on Twitch. Hello. So this is still, these two eyeballs are still functioning symmetrically because I created one and had the symmetry apply. I bet that's it. So that's the cool thing. So you got this, you create this character roughly. I'm going to put a mouth in. The mouth is going to be asymmetrical, so I don't want to do that. Currently symmetry is set up, and I think once I have the thing roughly how I like it, I'm going to turn symmetry off, And then you can do fun things like using the drag tool. You can select one eyebrow and just raise that and then lower the other one. So you can have an asymmetrical, an asymmetrical face, but you start with getting the symmetry right and then go in and mess with it. That's not an expression our hero would make, so let's undo that. And I'm also going to put in hair. I didn't know what I was doing. The previous one I had created, I really had no idea. So let me show you where we're leaving off. But this is great. In addition to streaming to Twitch, YouTube, and live, this was a test of plugging my router directly into my computer and seeing if that fixed some of the frame rate issues. If you look at any of the past videos, the audio is great. We lose frames right and left. The video is like a slideshow of my stuff, and always, moving from one awkward face to another, always at the wrong moment. So let me go back and open my hero's figure. There were some other raw shapes in there. I also imported some STLs that were provided by a site called Hero Forge. Hero Forge is great because it lets people make their own 3D models of their D&D figures, where you can say, I want them to be an elf, or I want her to be an orc, and give me a giant broadsword, and blah blah blah. So you basically can piece together a... Where are his arms? Let me check. Oh, this is number 3. Open... Where's number 4? Oh, that's number 4. I got confused because I saw that egg shape I had started with previously, and I thought, that's not my beautiful drawing. That's not my beautiful house. But Hero Forge is great because you can assemble kind of like, almost like awesome Legos. Build your own character. And you can either buy the STL, the printable 3D model figure, or they'll print it for you. And they have some demo figures, like, is this a product that I can download? Is it going to work on my 3D printer? That sort of thing. So downloading the demos, I was able to bring those in, and the sizing of them and the proportionality of them as a guide, so that when I create this is too detailed to create as a tiny, which stands about 1 inch tall. I'm gonna have to do a much simpler version of it. I look forward to doing that. I will stream the process of that. I want to create D&D minis of the various characters from the Middle Age. And now that I think I know how to do this, I'm excited. The program's called Nomad Sculpt. There's a free version on Android, and the full version is $15. There's no demo version, no free version on iOS, but the best $15 I've spent on an application in a while. And the thing is, if it was like a $5 a month subscription, I wouldn't have done it because I'm such a cheapskate. But a $15 one-time purchase, and I love it. The one thing it can't do very well is extruding polygons. Like, it's got a lathe function, but there's no way to draw a geometric shape, as far as I know, and then extruding that. Or what I prefer to do would be to draw the thing using Illustrator, save that as an SVG file, and then bring that in. But what you can do is, in Illustrator, you can create the thing you like, copy it, and paste it into Photoshop as a smart object, and then apply Photoshop's 3D, and then export that as an STL file, and then bring it in here. And that's how I got my sword. There is a font available with runes. Normally when I'm doing my comic, I handwrite the runes in. In this case, I use the font with runes, and I think it says something along the lines of "The Middle Age is written and drawn by Steve Conley." And I think the other one is "Maledicta, the Blade of Woe, the Woe Blade, Stabracadabra." Whatever would fit. I don't think it's legible. But I think I'm going to redo this axe. I was trying to make the center of the axe asymmetrical, I was saying before, but I might deliberately... I think I'm just going to make it centered, because I think people think, why is it off-centered? Did you do it wrong? Because it's not... because it doesn't look intentional, it looks wrong. So I need to fix that. Anywho, Thank you all for being here. Thank you for testing the tech with me. I can't believe it worked. We have solved the problem. I just have to run a 50-foot cable through my home, and that's all. And make sure the cats don't chew on it. But have a lovely Saturday. Hope you're safe. I hope you're well. And I'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, jump through the hoops, light the candles, whatever you have to do to make sure you get notified of the next broadcast. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.